Hey everybody, Michael Crump here, yet again, talking all about consoles, console hacking, and just how to get more out of your consoles. Today is part 3 in the Crump Challenge, where in part 1, I talked a bit about the $30 challenge, which meant I needed to get 3 consoles from 3 different companies for a total of $30, and those consoles need to at least be able to be modded and run game backups before the end of this series. So part 2 was all about the Xbox. Part 3 today is going to be about the PlayStation 2, and then part 4 will be all about the Wii that I bought. I'd encourage you, if you haven't done so, check out the series. I will link it down below in the description. So with the top cover taken off, take a look at the 2 squares that I have marked on the board in red. If you press and you hold down both of these buttons, then you will be able to make the drive think that the lid has been closed. It looks like this gold piece right here is not turning. So I think the next thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to see if I can turn this manually and does it adjust the laser lens here, or what necessarily is going on. So I can move this back and forth, and this piece does appear to be turning. Doesn't appear that it's hanging on anything. And the other part is that right here, there's a little groove in this, and it is in the right position. I can manually turn this thing by hand if I wanted to. Try it again here. And the same exact thing. And it is making that same grinding noise. So lifting this up a little bit, it does not appear that there's any sort of garbage or anything that may be stuck in between. And as you can see, there is 3 screws here that you will need to take out. One thing to note is that when you take these out, there's this little clear plastic thing, and you want to make sure that you keep that together with it. Also, these are very small screws. So if you're taking this out, just be very mindful of that and keep them in a safe location. Let's go ahead and take out these 3 screws. This will take care of the first one, and now the second one, and finally the third one. Now that we have those all out, we can take the laser completely out of the machine here. So just be a bit careful with it as you're pulling it out. There is this little rod that you're going to have to make sure that you pull completely off of the laser, as well as there is a cable that is connecting the machine to the laser itself. I double checked that there was no sort of grease or grime alongside this edge, as well as the connector that is underneath this piece, and I didn't find anything necessarily that I thought that could be wrong with it. There is a bunch of other videos that says sometimes this noise is caused by this little piece right here, which tells the disk drive that the laser is all the way at the very end here. So there was some comments on maybe trying to use a piece of paper in order to make sure that this will hit. And I just decided to go ahead and go for that. Put those 3 pieces back together, and I found a little piece of paper, and I attempted to see if that worked. Now, this was just a temporary fix, just to see if that was the problem. So obviously, I put it in the easiest way that I knew how. And I did a couple of different tests with this, some of these on camera, some of these off camera, and learned that that little piece was not causing this problem. So I took out the piece of paper here and I kept going. So the next logical thing to do here was to take out the tray itself that holds the lens used to read DVDs. So there is 4 screws here that you'll need to take out. Again, these were all standard screwdrivers, no special bits or anything like that was required. Once those are out, you simply need to disconnect this wire right here along with this wire over here on the side. There is a cable on the back here that you will need to disconnect. Right there, you can see it. And what we're going to simply do is we're going to flip up this little tab here, and then we'll pull the cable right out. After physically looking at the device and not seeing anything that needs to be fixed, I was starting to think to myself, maybe I should replace this whole part from another PS2 Slim that I had. So I put in these 4 screws again, and again, I tested it to the best of my capabilities to see what was going on there, and I tried to run it. So since I didn't really have any power going to the new DVD lens, I started taking a look at the cable and kept feeling that there may not be a proper connection that's being made here. So I ensured all of the cables were in there properly, everything is spinning right, and then tried it again, and absolutely no activity. Okay, so at this point, I'm really thinking that there may be some damage to this existing cable. So I decided to take everything back apart again and take a closer inspection at that cable. So this is what it looked like. As you can see, there's quite a bit of tears in here. So obviously I couldn't get this to go in there and to actually stay fit. Okay, so I took the cable from the other PlayStation 2, used a bit of tape here to secure it, and then put back in the drive itself. I began to run it, and you can see that there is a bit of a difference. The laser here, if you look at the motion, this did go up and down, and there seemed to be a little bit of light out of it, but not very much. And so with the current state, I got to thinking that I probably wouldn't be able to fix this one without buying some additional parts. So maybe a brand new PlayStation 2 Slim laser could have helped. Maybe one of those additional orange cables could have helped. I hadn't tested that other PlayStation 2 Slim in quite some time, so maybe it wasn't fully working before I started. And then there were some other comments and suggestions on other videos that potentially it had to deal with the motor that's in that drive and replacing that one. And I just did not feel like I was going to be able to do this without buying something. So what I ultimately decided on was that I was going to use the free McBoot software in order to boot up my console into a state to where it could run Homebrew. If you do have a working DVD drive on your PlayStation 2 Slim and you do not have a free McBoot card, then you can use this tool. It's just free DVD boot. This is the compatibility list, and you can find out this information on your own by just simply going to the version information, which is in your PlayStation 2 home screen, looking at your console number. So in this instance, I was just looking for this 77001, and then I matched it down here at the bottom to the SKU model that was listed, and the status for that did show that it was yes and that it should work. Now, keep in mind, my DVD is broken, so I'm not going to be able to use this method. But again, if you have a DVD drive that is working and you do not have an existing free McBoot card, then you should use this method. And you can simply jump over to this link again if you have a DVD drive working, and you can scroll down a bit here, and there is just simply an ISO image, and you just click here, you download it. And once you have that downloaded, you'll use something like Image Burn to burn that to a disk, which will allow your unmodified PlayStation 2 Slim to boot up to the point to where you can run custom ELFs. But what we wanted to do is we wanted to use free McBoot. I already had an existing free McBoot card I already had a way to run ELF programs. So I decided that for this challenge, that while I can use this to make another free McBoot card, that I wouldn't be able to use this one, as it is something that I did buy previously. So I found an empty Sony PlayStation 2 8 megabyte memory card and decided to put it onto this one, where this is completely separate from some of the previous things that I've purchased in order to able to mod a PlayStation 2 Slim. This was very easy, as in I went to this installer here, version 1.966. I clicked on the download button here, and from here I went ahead and I just extracted it. Once it was extracted, I went ahead and I opened up that folder, and everything that you see in here is basically what we were going to need to install to our USB flash drive. So make sure you get a USB flash drive. I used an older one that I had. This one was for 512 megabytes. Also works great with the Xbox, original Xbox. And pop that into your computer. And we're going to simply copy and then paste that into our USB drive. And you could put these files just on the root of the USB drive if you wanted to. I would also recommend not having necessarily this long of a folder name. I try to keep it pretty short, so maybe just FMCB. And so I have my free McBoot memory card that I had purchased previously. And then I had an existing Sony PlayStation 2 memory card that I went ahead and I made this really fancy label for. And I plugged this into the second port. And then here is my USB drive, 512 megabytes, that contains the files that I just showed you that I downloaded earlier. With everything complete there, I went ahead and I booted up my PlayStation 2 Slim with the free McBoot card in there. I went to this option, which is Launch ELF. So in order to make an additional memory card with free McBoot, I needed to do the following. I went in here and I selected the circle button and I navigated down to the mass folder. And then I went down to where it says fmcb installer.elf and I hit the circle button again. Okay, so it boots up to the main menu, and before we do any work here, the first thing that I was going to do is I was just going to format all of the data that was off of that other memory card. It was from so long ago, and I even believed that maybe I got it in a trade somewhere, but I didn't need any of the data that was on there. So you can use the L1 buttons, you can navigate around. I went to Format Memory Card here, and just went ahead and selected that with X, and this is in slot 2. And yes, on this prompt here, and my memory card was completely formatted. Now I went ahead and I hit the L1 button. And again, and then I went to multi-install. So multi-install makes a free McBoot card that works on any console regardless. So fat models, slim models, etc. If you do install here, it will make one for the current machine that you're basically on. I went to multi-install and okay to this first prompt, slot 2, and then another yes right here. And we began the installation process. Installation doesn't take very long. You will not see anything kind of crazy happening on the PlayStation 2. It kind of does most of this just silently. All right, you'll finally get to installation completed. Go ahead and hit OK. And you can go ahead and you can exit out of the installer here. And then OK. So before I boot up with the new card, keep in mind that the free McBoot that I was using previously, which is a card I bought a while back, was on 1.953, and the latest version at the time of this recording is 1.966. I went ahead and made an extra one just because I was already in there and because I had another memory card that wasn't in use. Okay, so booting back up the console, I can see up at the top it does say 1.966. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to run the Launch Elf Program. And we're going to go to where it says MC1. And I'm going to go over to Apps and then Boot. And there's a couple of applications that we're going to need here. Open PlayStation Launcher, the PS2 Info GB, SNES, ELF off of the card. Now, if you're just looking for OPL, you can find that file on the net, put it on your memory stick, and then from there, you can go ahead and you can copy that directly to where I'm copying it here on mine. So I've marked these three with X, and now I'm going to do R1 to get myself a menu, and we're going to go copy. And now we're going to go back to our memory card 0. I'm going to go back over to the boot folder. Here you'll see there's nothing inside of this. Let's go ahead and R1 and let's paste. And now it's going to copy these 3 ELF files that I wanted to be persistent on my new memory card. Okay, so now we can see the files that are on there. I went ahead and I rebooted my machine here. And you may be wondering, where is OPL? Where is the SNES? Where is the other utility? And well, that is because we have to actually specify those first. So go ahead and go down to where it says Free McBoot Configurator. Hit O, and then scroll down to just to where it says Configure OSD SYS Options. And go to where it says Configure Item. And you'll see that's number 1. Let's go ahead and go to one that is empty. So 6 is the first one that I had. And so again, you can put these wherever you would like. So configure item. And now we need to give it a name. I'm just going to give mine OPL. And then for the path, I'm going to specify where we just put that. So that's back over here in the boot. And then OPN PS2LD. And from here, go ahead and hit the return button. And don't forget to save the CNF to memory card 0. So if you don't do this, it will not show up. So make sure you set OK on that. You should see up at the very top, it says that it has been saved. And then you're going to simply go down to Exit. Feel free to go ahead and reboot your PlayStation 2 Slim yet again. You should be able to scroll down and you should see OPL. Okay, so we have OPL installed now. And if we want to, we can go ahead and we can run this. This is going to allow us to run our game backups, settings, and then I changed the USB device to auto, and then OK. And then make sure you go save changes. And so I already had some games on a USB drive. For the most part, you just have to put your ISO images into a folder called DVD on your USB drive. And here's the games that I had. So I decided to kick things off with the game that almost every PlayStation 2 owner has played, which is Manhunt. No, seriously, this is a great game. You should go check it out. It's a lot of fun to play through. And I really enjoyed the game. Thank you so very much for watching. Feel free to leave a like, a comment, hit that subscribe button, and I will see each and every one of your beautiful faces on the next video. Michael out.